Hello, and thank you for joining us for That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. People like me, Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and I'm here as ever with my wonderful co host, force of nature of herself, Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro. Hi, Karen. How are you today?
Hi, Michelle. I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, hey, hunky dory.
I'm super happy this week. Even though the month has gone by slow,
Oh,
it's been fast. It's been
yeah.
kind of May's kind of a weird month. Like on Monday, I always think that it's not Friday yet, and I get the days all mixed up, and it just seems like it's going so fast, but it's also going so slow. So it's weird, weird, weird.
Yeah.
But at least we've had enough bouts of sunshine that I'm feeling like I could actually go on.
I agree. I agree.
No sunshine today, but that's okay because we
Yeah.
actually needed some rain to help with the plants and everything. So, yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, we've had the whirlwind of weather here in southeastern PA. We're gonna get a taste of hot and humid summer over the weekend. We had some wild winds, spring, whatever, and I feel the same way. It's like, is it Tuesday? Is it Thursday? Wait, oh, that
Yeah,
meeting's next week, not this week, but it feels like it should be this week. Oh, and wow, these clients are waking up, which is awesome, but at the same time,
I know. I know, but here is the good news for all of you listening. By the time this comes out on audio, you will be 1
week
week
from a 3-day
closer
weekend.
to Memorial Day weekend. I had to really think about that, but yay for Memorial Day weekend, which is kind of that unofficial kickoff of summer. And I think for all of us, there's something about summer, no matter how old you are, that just brings joy.
Yeah,
I don't, growing up traditionally, we had summers off from school. So I think it was a time of play and,
yeah,
family vacations and cookouts and just fun things. And I think that that sticks in our minds. I don't
absolutely.
it for the younger generation. That would be interesting. Is the younger
Yeah.
generation, yeah,
Yeah, that is a very good question because it's that change of scene, that shift. Because it was funny, I was
yeah,
talking with friends the other day, and one of their sons took a summer course, and that really helps kids, and my immediate
yeah.
thought was, "Ew, you're ruining life for them. Let them have their last free summers, because after that, it's the trap of adulthood."
Ugh, adulthood, which adulthood as a PR pro, is
Never
is
ends.
it's a rose garden,
There we
but
go. There we go. Yes, in summer.
roses have
They
thorns.
do. So that's what we're going to talk about today. There is no shortage of thorny topics,
Yeah,
thorny issues, and it all has to do with, that change is a constant, right? And it's up to us. We are the guardians of our clients and their champions, and just it often falls on us as it should. Well, hopefully it does fall on us because sometimes
yeah.
when they try and do it on their own, it doesn't work out so well. So, we try and guide them through these thorny topics, helping them navigate these issues. So that's what we're really going to talk about today.
Yeah, and here's what I am coming to a whole new realization about, and I'm sure many of you in our audience are as well, is that we have always been the defenders of client reputation. So we've always made sure to cover all of the bases and to be thorough in our discovery process and thorough as we plan campaigns to ensure that we're not doing something that would showcase our clients in a negative light or invite negative or toxic conversation.
Right.
However, the past 3 years have just seen these waves of change that have forced us to deal with issues that are not as commonplace. And
Right.
it right now, if it feels like you are constantly walking on eggshells and dodging landmines, it's because you are.
Right.
So we're in this environment that really is not conducive to really being the calm, rational professionals that we are,
No.
because, let's face it, emotions are really high because of the world events that we have experienced and continue to experience. And so your audiences are on edge. We
Mhm.
know that we have a mental health crisis we can speak to the United States, but I believe that this has to be global because we've all gone through the same things. We have this mental health crisis. So you have more than ever people that are dealing with anxiety issues. You have people that they feel like they're on heightened alert and everything becomes amplified and anger, like they go from 0 to 60 very quickly. So
Mhm.
in communications, we really have to be aware of the environment that we're in, and we also, and here's the tough part, is that we have to understand that we also are experiencing some of those same impacts from the same
Right.
thing as everybody else. And so it's really important first to make sure that you're coming from a balanced, neutral perspective, because as a PR professional, you have that dual responsibility of not only serving your clients, but their audiences. And so you're
Mhm.
the guardian of both. And it can feel sometimes like their interests are competing and conflicting, and you have to manage that. And so, um, some of the things that you may not think of are things like an online form.
Uh-huh.
An online form can inspire wrath from some people, depending on questions that you ask. For example, if you simply have one field for gender, not gender identity, but gender, then that can be super offensive to many people because they feel like you are not being inclusive by asking how they identify. And again, these are things that we may not have thought of in the past, or there may be processes that have been in place for a very long time. In
Right.
some cases, your client may already be aware of these issues and truly be working on a fix behind the scenes, because as we as professionals also know, is that these things that look simple to the public often require programming fixes, engineering fixes, and they have an impact throughout more than one process. And so it's not
Mhm.
a matter of fixing a form, it's making sure that that information flows through the rest of their system. So it can be a lot more complex than your audience realizes. And so even if you're working on a fix, or even if you've now identified these as issues that need to be addressed, they may not be quick fixes. And in the interim, you have to be prepared to manage any criticism and help people to understand your process. So I consider that to be kind of a thorny thing because it's something we
Right.
took in it that now we can't.
Right. 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 And it all speaks to inclusivity. And, I would guess that oftentimes it's comes from a standpoint of innocence of, "Oh my goodness, you're right. Why didn't we think of that to update that?" Because in the big picture of running your business, yes, of course we want to be inclusive, of course. Because, at the end of the day, even if you don't have an iota of altruism in you, you still want to do business with people. So oftentimes it's just be prepared to deal with these things. And you're right. Even though we have all this technology, and I often joke with my mother, I'm like, you know what? We might have this technology, but it's not the Jetsons. So it's not
Yeah.
going to be instantaneous to update this. Um, it
Well,
just isn't.
it's true, and I it's interesting because people do, and again, my reaction to something that was troublesome, in the best of worlds and in normal times, it would be, let's reach out to the company and get some information
Yeah,
first before
yeah.
I go nuclear and just skewer them on social media. Unfortunately, people are very triggered, right or wrong, and no judgment, because I do understand that we've gone through so much.
Yeah.
But people will immediately take to the world.
Yeah.
I will give you another example from real world to just show how we're like here. We're just we're just primed for danger. We're primed for anything. There was a gentleman that shared a photo of a man that came to his house, and the guy was on a cell phone, and he looked under the guy's mat and was looking around. And so he put it all over social media, like this guy, was, you know, eh, he made it sound like it was some nefarious act, and he took a picture of the guy's truck, and so now you got this picture of this person and their
Yeah.
truck out there on social media as though he were a potential robber. When in fact, for somebody who didn't immediately, for people whose minds did not go to robbery, nefarious activity, is like, yeah, it seems like he came to the wrong house and was
Yeah.
looking for something that someone left for him. And I don't know about you guys, but I've done that for friends. Like
Yeah.
I've said, "Hey, I'll leave it under the mat for you because I've got to run out and I won't be here when you get here."
Yeah.
And the person is on a phone having a conversation,
Yeah.
and not the conversation like jewel thieves would have, like, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
at the target's house." It was pretty innocent, but it just goes to show how very innocent things and very innocent mistakes
Right.
in this environment can get completely blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
And and I wanna be careful because I wanna make sure that I communicate that I'm not minimizing people's concerns, and I'm not minimizing the need for us to have companies that are really committed to equity and inclusion. But I am saying that sometimes, even as you are caring about these issues and actively working on them, you may have people in your audience who see it and are immediately going to go scorched earth on you because it's not done right now.
Right. Right. And I think for any of us who, handle the social media management for clients, you see this firsthand. I mean, I, I've s- I think I've shared this before here. I've shared this with you in conversation. Every year I share news if there's a minimum wage increase, just standard issue annual stuff, mileage rates, for an accounting client. And this is the first year that their innocuous post got hijacked and jumped on. I had to hide posts. And it's like, really? I was just sharing information. This is not an invitation for you to rail for or against for your thoughts about minimum wage. Do that on your own property. Thank you very much. And I think you're right. Recent current events coupled with the pandemic and everyone is so on like a hair trigger. We just want to go, no, stop. And that's your first instinct. And people say, "Oh, social media has gotten so bad," and well, I think that's a big part of it. I think our collective experience is showing up
Yeah,
in the climate there. So, okay, now this week is like National Police Week, and I'm thinking, your first instinct might be, "Thank you to our local, the people that look
yeah,
at," and then I'm like, "Oh, no.
yeah.
Who's gonna have this to say about it? Who's gonna have that to say about it? Is it worth it in the big scheme of things as a caretaker for my brands? Is it worth saying something? Or is it, or am I better off, just promoting our initiatives and our things in the community?" And when
Oh,
that
yeah,
adds up, it can
yeah.
just be
It is
exhausting
exhausting
to
because
a
I feel
certain
like
level.
we're having to make many more micro decisions.
Yes.
I saw a PR professional take a company to task for not speaking up about abortion rights. And, again, this is a very, very polarizing topic. And we live in an age where the public demands that companies take a stand on issues, political issues, worldwide issues. They want to know where companies stand. It's really an unfair task, in my opinion, because I don't necessarily need to know where every company stands on every single issue because some of those issues are not applicable. Companies should be good citizens and they should participate in the communities around them. They should, in my worldview, give back and do good. But a company is not a human being. And even human beings are very complex. We're not
Right.
homogenous. So if you are of one political party or another, it doesn't mean that every single decision you make is going to align with that. It's way
Yeah.
more nuanced than that. And I think that it's important for companies to stand behind the things that are important to them. So I would
Right.
expect a plant-based company to really be involved in sustainability and environmentalism and maybe, animal rights activism. Those things would be central and it would make sense for that particular brand. I'm not asking them to take a stand on whether or not we should have a traffic light at the corner because that
Why
doesn't
not?
make sense. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
so I think
Right.
that we, the public, have to stop and remember what are we asking of people? And I think as
Yeah.
public relations professionals, we have to be careful not to let our advocacy and our activism color the sound counsel that we give clients. Because
Right.
I've seen this too. And we are passionate professionals. We know how to get the word out. We all have issues that we care deeply about and that we are advocating for because that's the kind of people that we are. We're involved. We see problems, we're going to be part of the solution. But you cannot let your own views color how you counsel clients to do the right thing. So you might say, well, you absolutely need to speak up on this issue. Do they? Because you're telling them to speak up on something because it's important to you and central to who you are and how you show up in the world. But is it the smartest thing for your client? Is it something that is central to their brand? Is it something that their audience is looking to them for leadership on? You have to
Right.
be really careful and make those separations. And again, I realize that even having this conversation and me saying these things could be controversial, but I hope that our audience is listening and listening with an open mind to understand that I'm not saying, I'm not taking a point of view here at all because I'm
No, no,
not.
no.
This
No.
is a fully Switzerland type of conversation where I'm saying our approach and how we do our work has really become a little more complex.
Well, and it's something that we need to discuss because we need to help our clients navigate these things, and I think, you know, helping them do that, I think a great way to do that is to just remind them, what is your mission? What is your mission statement? Run everything you do through that lens. If it applies or if you serve an audience that is in an affected area. So, let's say with a lot of these corporations that are pulling out of doing business in Russia, there's a fine line between that and an audience expecting someone, a corporation that makes, soda to turn into a lobbyist for a cause. It really depends. You've got, let's look at the ice cream world. Ben and Jerry's, they have a very specific ethos. You know what you're getting with them. And so, yes, you do tend to expect them to take stands. Whereas, say, oh, I don't know, Breyers, just a
Yeah,
general name brand ice
yeah,
cream. Not really. I
yeah.
don't know. Do I know
Yeah,
even
I
how
mean,
they
you
they
expect
where do they
certain things from REI, right? Because
Right.
that's built into their and I love that that you linked back to mission, vision, values. Oh my God, I love that you did that, Michelle, because you're
Yeah,
right. Like, is this central to the company's mission, vision, and values? Because if it is, then obviously that means that this is core to who they are and they're willing to die on that hill. But you can't put clients out there to die on every single hill. You can't
right,
do it. It's not fair to them and it doesn't make sense.
right,
We all run companies too. My company doesn't take a stand on anything, and I'm sorry to the people who feel like I should. Kieran Swim, the individual, will speak out and take a stand on things, but I work with a variety of clients, and my principles have not changed at all. I'm not ever going to work with a client that's doing anything illegal or unethical. I'm not going to work with companies that are toxic. And if I find out later that they're toxic, then I'm out. And
mhm,
I am always going to treat every single human being with absolute respect, period.
right,
I don't
right.
care where you're from. I don't care about any of that. A person is a person to me. And everybody deserves respect and deserves to be valued. And so
Yeah.
that's the place that I operate from, which means sometimes I do work with people that have different viewpoints. I find that to be good for me,
Good.
honestly. It
Good.
helps me to broaden my perspective. And I like what Chip is saying because at the core, we have to realize as PR professionals that he's absolutely right. Publics will say that they want companies to be active on issues. And this has become something that we've assigned ownership to the millennials and the younger generation that they're driving this, that they want social impact. But in reality, when people say that they want companies to take a stand on issues, as Chip has noted, what they're really saying is, I want you to agree with my point of view. And you know what? That's okay for them. As consumers, we absolutely have that right to pick
And
and choose. We get to choose where we spend our dollars. We get to choose to purchase from companies and support companies that share our POV. As
do you know why that
public
is?
professionals, because we have a choice.
Well, no, also because then I get to feel that much more better about myself because my company has bowed to my demands.
I mean, that's
Sorry,
another way of
millennials.
looking at it. But here's the thing. We PR pros, we're also consumers, but
Yeah,
we're also professionals. And so you have to realize that what every consumer wants may not be applicable to your client. And
right.
sometimes giving in to the demands of one part of your audience could very well isolate another part of your audience. And so it's navigating that. But again, people do have a choice. What we're seeking to do is not to isolate, not to offend, not to minimize anyone's viewpoint or anyone's personhood. We
Yeah.
want to do all of the right things, but we also cannot expect our companies to take up the fight on every single issue in the world.
Right.
There's just so many.
Right.
There's
Well,
just so many.
and exactly as you say, I mean, so many companies, they serve all types of people, people with different beliefs, people with different values, because they just do. So again, it's looking through that lens, and that's the beauty of why you have your mission statement, your values, because then when you come up against these issues, you don't have to say, "Oh my goodness, what should we do?" Well,
Yeah.
let's pull out that piece of paper or pull it up on our PDF on our website and read it and say, "Okay, we have that prism to run things through." And it's also why you should really know your audience says. Your audience is made up of a variety of people. So understand that. And, at the end of the day, you're not going to be for everybody. So if somebody decides they no longer want to do business with you because of a stand you are or aren't taking, okay, that's okay.
And when you are clear on your purpose in this world, when you are very clear on that for yourself, you know that there are certain risks and you're willing to take those risks because it's who you are.
Yeah.
And are we asking companies to set themselves up to be burned at the stake for things that are not even important to who they are as a brand? And I think that's the key question. And, mission, vision, values, I do when I do ethics talks, I talk a lot about that because they shouldn't just be a statement that you wrote, 10 years ago. It should be something that's lived in every
Mm,
single part of your company and every single touch point in every single room of your company, from the
yeah.
basement boardroom, period. And the clearer that you are on that, and when it's used to drive you, then that allows you to have that North Star when it comes
Mhm.
to, is this an issue that we need to weigh in on?
Yeah.
In the same way as PR professionals, we've come to learn that it's, it's also tricky, for example, to now weigh in on every single observance, every single holiday, because it's at some point it's just you're just are you doing it just to be inclusive?
Seen
But
or just be
inclusive
seen.
without that is not genuine. It
Yeah.
just and it gets to be overwhelming. It really does get to be overwhelming. I think we have to think about the things that we're weighing in on, like, please, everybody, do not go and rush and put up a bunch of stuff on Juneteenth, because if you don't
Right.
know anything about the holiday, and you plan it all wrong because you want to be on the right side of right, don't do it. There has to be this authenticity. And
Yeah.
I love that Chip um, Griffin used the word tolerance. This
Yeah.
is such a good one. We could have a whole show on tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah.
We sort of lost that, in the past couple of years. We have become
Mhm.
very intolerant. And again, I understand that. I do.
Yeah.
I think we all, like, there's not a person among us that has had it up to here with something, and you're like,
You're just
"I
done.
know it, and I'm just over it."
Yeah, just done. Well, hopping back on the mission, vision, values, and if you are telling your if your clients and if you are helping them tell their story properly and effectively, your mission, vision, values should be in every pore of anything you do. So
Oh,
their audiences should know who they are, know what they stand for. So there really should be little to no question. And with that,
absolutely.
thankfully, the thorns should be far and few between.
Well, you know what I really love about this conversation is that for me, it once again reminds me what an honor it is
Yeah.
to do this job.
Yeah, you're
It's
right.
what an honor. It is, to have the skill set, to have the compassion, to have the, communications abilities to be
Yeah.
able to do this job. And I hope that all of you who are listening, who are communicators, really understand how much more important we are even today.
Yeah.
People cannot do this on their own.
Yeah.
They need us, and that's a beautiful thing. And how amazing that we sit in these seats. I mean, it's such a great job. It's hard. It's often thankless. We get it
Maddening.
on all sides, even though all we're really trying to do is serve the people. We really are. I know every profession has, its bad apples, but overwhelmingly PR people are really the best of the earth. I have to say, I'm always happy to talk to a PR person because we have such a common ground. And this
Yeah.
profession attracts people who love other people, who are
Yeah.
doers, who are problem solvers, who
Yes.
optimistic. And, I love us.
When what is our week, Karen? When is PR
What
Pro
is our big?
Communicator Week? I think we need to start one.
I know.
No, but you're
Oh,
you're right, you're right, and it's so easy to get bogged down in this era of what I call prosumerism.
mm,
Everyone with a laptop is a designer and a wordsmith, and you're thinking and sometimes that can get too far, well, in my head. I'm thinking, "What? How would I do matters?" So, this conversation has been great on that front, and to everyone out there, your work matters, your counsel matters. You are in this profession for a reason because we can pivot with the best of them, and you're right, our clients do need us. So clients out there listening, just, remember that too. But we hope you enjoyed this conversation. This was really fun today to dig into this. And there is
yeah.
so much more we could dig into, but reach out to us at soloprpro.com. We want to hear what you think as well and share this around. And until next time, thanks for joining us on That Solo Life.